Money, it affects our everyday life. But how do we make more of it? Manage it. And make sure we make the most of our money. Welcome to Money Mindful, a podcast to teach and support you as you learn to manage your money.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to the first episode for the year 2021. How good does that sound? I love a fresh start and I love new beginnings. I am your host, Meaghan J Smith. Welcome. It's the start of season 3. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, you are in for a treat. I have quite a few interviews lined up in the next couple of months and some really exciting episodes coming out. As always, let's skip the small talk and just get straight into it. About 100 years ago, when I was a kid in the 80s, I lived in normalise, darling. And for those of you who don't know that area, it's a very posh seaside town down the peninsula in Victoria. And when I lived there in the 80s, it wasn't so posh. In fact, it was still dirt roads where we lived. And I became friends with another little girl who lived around the corner from our house, and we used to play together. And I remember that there was always a little bit of friction. We kind of got in each other's faces a bit, as you do when you're, I don't know, maybe I was 5 or somewhere around that age. I wasn't very old. And I remember I used to, even though I had this kind of conflict, I always went over and would play with this girl. And I used to love going over to their house because they had vegetable salt. Do you guys know that salt? I think it's just called vegetable salt. You get it here in Australia and it's salt, but it has little herbs and things in it. And I'm not embarrassed to say that as a kid, I was a complete weirdo. I used to sneak into the cupboard at home and steal stock cubes and eat them. I don't know. I just had this thing about salt. I'd be interested actually if there's a nutritionist listening and thinking, right, you must have been deficient in blah-de-blah and that's why you crave salt. But I always wanted salt as a kid. So I was really loved that they had vegetable salt because we didn't have vegetable salt at our house and I really wanted vegetable salt. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, I used to kind of get into these little tiffs with the young girl that I was playing with, and I remember having a conversation with her mum one day in her kitchen, and I don't remember exactly, but I was probably saying something that I didn't like about her daughter, as you do when you're a kid, you just say it how it is. And I'll never forget that her mum said to me, "What you see in others, you see in yourself." Well, I did not like the fact that she said that to me at all. And I was totally not convinced that that was a thing. And I didn't want to take that on at all. But on reflection and as an adult and as a life coach, I can totally see the truth in that now, and how whenever I can feel my attention on someone, that they're kind of annoying me or something's up in my space, without a doubt, I can usually always trace it back. It reflects me. Somehow it reflects a behavior that either I do that I don't like about myself or that I resist somehow. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm talking about? You know, it's like when you sort of look at somebody else and think their behavior is bad, but then when you take the time to look at your own behavior, you realize that you do the same thing. Like when you get really honest with yourself. And I was listening to a podcast recently and two coaches were talking, and the topic of their conversation was kind of similar, and it got me thinking about how, yeah, what you see in others, you see in yourself is true from a negative perspective. Like, I always thought it from a negative perspective, from the things that I saw in others that I didn't like. But then I realized also what you see in others in terms of the positive is also true about you, that reflects what you are capable of or what you can do. It's like the success that you see in others is already in you, but it comes out more when you are around them. Okay, let me get really specific about what I'm talking about so you're not wondering what the heck I'm going on about. The title of this podcast is, of course, You Can Make $1 Million. And I have been talking to a colleague of mine a lot about this recently, about how much money that we're going to make and how much we're projecting that we're going to make in our businesses. And I find myself talking with her now and saying things like, yeah, of course I'm going to make $1 million. And that just seems so normal to me now in how I envisage myself in the future. I mean, I'm not making $1 million now, but I'm not focusing on that. That's irrelevant. But I can totally see myself making $1 million in the future. And it feels inevitable now. It just feels like, yeah, of course I would make $1 million in my business, like in a few years, like in some time in the future. And it's really interesting because 12 months ago, saying something like, of course I'll make $1 million in my business, just sounded so wrong. Like I wouldn't have even said that. And I would have been embarrassed to say something like that on the podcast because that was so far away from my reality. But like I was saying, like when you can see success in other people, that is already available to you. And one of the ways that you can access that, and I don't mean other people, like you have to be around other people to be able to achieve your goals. But what's really interesting is that over the course of making this podcast, I mean, this podcast primarily is about money. That's kind of the overarching topic, right? And so I find myself talking to people about money all the time. And talking about money is completely normal for me now. It's become so normalized, like it is just not weird at all. And when I'm coaching people now, like I coach a lot of people on money issues, or people will just bring up money in conversations with me because obviously they know that this is a topic that I'm all over. And so to have a conversation with people where they're like, oh yeah, you know, on a good year I earn 400,000, or, you know, there's someone that I'm working with who has a goal at the moment, a big multi-million-dollar goal. And yeah, it's just so normal now. And it's become part of my life. Like, yeah, of course you would have a goal to make $100 million. I mean, that's not my goal, but that's a goal of someone that I'm working with. And it's just like, yeah, of course that person's going to do that. And of course, those kind of people are in my life. And the point I'm trying to make here is that we place limitations on ourselves based on our past, pretty much. Like if I based what I could do in my future on my past, I would still just continue to make the same income and I would still be working as a teacher because I'd be looking to what I could already do. But when you want to do something new in your life, or you might not even be considering doing something new in your life because it hasn't even occurred to you that it's possible. And I want to tell you that it totally is. And I want to share a bit of my own journey with you, not to sort of be like, oh yeah, how amazing am I? I mean, obviously I am amazing, but but I want to share it with you from the point of view that anything is possible. So I started my business officially last year in May. I got my first paying client in May. Now, from May till about September, I kind of plodded along and just sort of got another client and then got another client. And then from October to November, I doubled my business, my revenue. I doubled the revenue that I was making, and I replaced my income as a teacher that I was making the previous year. And if you had told me that I was going to do that last year, at the start of the year, it's always this thing when you're saying last year and getting it all confused. But if you had told me that in 2019, that I was going to replace my income as a teacher, working as a coach, and also double my business, like double my revenue in 2 months, I would have just been like, get out, no way. But that totally happened. That is reflected in my bookkeeping, in my business. And it's kind of incredible, right? But it's because I'm now holding myself in this place that, yeah, of course you can make $1 million. Of course you can do whatever the fuck you want. You just have to allow yourself to dream it. And sometimes one of the problems that we have is that a goal just feels so far away that, in fact, goal isn't even the right word. Like saying something like I'm going to make $1 million just sounds so outside of the realm of what you're capable of. It sounds so far-fetched that you don't even let yourself say things like that, or even dream that those things are possible. And look, if I showed you the numbers of my business accounts now, it's a long way from $1 million. Okay, I'm not going to try and blow smoke out you know what, but I am in the possibility now that making $1 million is totally possible. Like, why not? Why isn't that possible for me? Like, of course it's possible for me. And I'm hanging around a lot of people who are making that kind of money. So the coaches that I mainly work with, like who coach me, they're making millions of dollars a year, like crazy money that I can't even imagine yet, having that kind of money. But the more you surround yourself with that, the more it just becomes like, yeah, of course, that's so normal. And so I really want to encourage you to normalize having a lot of money. And the way that you can do that is, if you want to make a lot of money, right? If you want to increase the amount of money that you make, this is what I'm encouraging you to do. And if you don't want to make more money, why are you listening to this podcast? Anyway, so if you want to make more money and you want that to become a reality, start surrounding yourself with people who make a lot of money. Now, you might not know people in your immediate group of friends who make a lot more money than you, and that's okay. Like, there's plenty of podcasts and people out there who make a lot of money, but I think what we tend to do as humans is we totally get in our own little bubble, and that bubble of our life becomes our reality, and we just think that that's the truth of the world. And when you start associating with people who do things differently, you realize that there's another way to live, there's another way to exist in the world, and you can actually create a different reality in your life. And actually an example that comes to mind is when I was younger, in my early 20s, I spent quite a lot of time in Indonesia. I've been to Indonesia many times. I have a really close friend in Indonesia, and one time I went over there and I was there over Christmas. And in Indonesia, they have like 5 official religions over there. Majority, it's Muslim, but they also have other religions there. But Christianity and Christmas and all that, it's not as, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not everywhere like it is here in Western Australia. And, I'm not even religious, but Christmas to me is like a really commercial holiday. It's, I don't see it for the religious reasons. It's just like, I've just grown up learning that you set up a tree and you give people presents. That's what Christmas is. But they don't do that. And I was at my friend's house and they didn't have a tree, and it was Christmas Day, and it was so weird for me to be there, and it just wasn't Christmassy at all. And I was on the phone to my family just like, do. Like I felt like I was in a weird twilight zone because I'm just so used to being next to a Christmas tree and people giving presents and things like that at Christmas, just because that's what I'm used to. That's what have grown up with and I'm used to seeing. But that doesn't mean that that's the truth of life and that that's how it has to be. And so what I mean is your financial situation is not the truth of your life. Like you can change it. You absolutely can change it. And if that seems like something that is not possible for you, get coaching on it. Get a coach and get coaching on it. That's what I help people do, because it is totally possible. And I've just told you the example of my experience over the last 12 months of completely changing the way that I earn money, from working as a primary school teacher to then working as a life coach, and then getting to a stage where I doubled my revenue in 2 months. I mean, that's crazy, right? Like I have no business doing that. If you look to my past to see what I'm capable of, but I don't look to my past to see what I'm capable of. I look to my future, and I look at all these women around me creating incredible success, and I just let that be a mirror of myself and accept that, yeah, that success that I see in others, I see it in myself, that's totally possible for me too, because these other people that I see making money in a very successful way, they're not special unicorns. They're not any different to me. They've just worked it out, trialed things in their business, created a lot of value, worked on their money beliefs, and changed their financial situation. And there's no reason why I won't continue to do that as well until, like, my goal is to be making $1 million revenue a year in my business. That's a long-term goal. But for now, it feels really real to say that. And it's actually kind of almost, I'm a little bit surprised how casually I feel like I'm talking to you about it. But it really does feel like that now. So if saying that, of course, I could make $1 million feels really icky to you and just feels like something that is totally not accessible to you, but it's something that you kind of feel like would be really amazing to achieve that, I just want to finish by saying that that is totally available to you. And I think, what did the lady I was listening to on this podcast, she made a comment, and I think it was something like, it's like you get a little preview in your mind of what could be possible, like a trailer to a movie. And that's what I want you to hold on to. It's like if you have an inkling that you could create something different and create a different financial outcome for yourself, just keep playing that trailer, that preview in your mind, and surround yourself with other people who are making a lot of money, so it just becomes matter of fact, like, yeah, of course, that's how much money we make. And you will be amazed at how quickly things can turn around and how you really can change your financial circumstances. All right, that's all I've got for you today. If you would like to learn how to get out of your own way and create the extraordinary life that you would like to live on purpose, I am a life coach and I help women do that in my business, turn their lives around and create the extraordinary life that they want to live on purpose. The only way that you can work with me is by going on to my website and booking a complimentary consultation. It's where we have a chat about your dreams and I help you make some decisions to create that for yourself. Okay, until we speak again, have a beautiful week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Money Mindful podcast. For more info, visit moneymindful.com.au. For future episodes, be sure to subscribe. And remember, the information in this podcast is of a general nature only and does not take into account your personal circumstances or goals. Please seek professional advice for your own financial needs. Remember to have fun along the way.